I'm going to run through a quick little demo with you guys to kind of get you familiar with the tools you're going to be working with today, and you guys get to decorate your cakes. So you're going to be working with some different tools today. First thing is going to be a turntable. So this is a decorator's turntable. This is mine from home, and it's a little heavier than the ones you guys are going to work with. This is a cast iron base and a heavy table there. Yours is going to be a little shorter. But the purpose of this is that you spin it, and so you'll have access to all sides of your cake. So it's going to really come in handy for decorating. Next thing we're going to use is a cake board. So you're going to want to put that down on your turntable so that when you're done decorating, all you have to do is slip the cake off, and you can easily remove it from your turntable. So that's one of the pieces we're going to be working with today. We're going to be using pastry bags as well. And this is what they're going to look like. And the way that you use a pastry bag is that when you go to use your pastry bag, what you want to do is fold down the bag like this. So you want your hand to look like this underneath, like a C, like that. So you're going to want to fold down the pastry bag. You're going to be using one tip today. This is an icer tip. This is going to help a lot with getting the frosting onto the cake. So what you want to do is drop your tip down in, push it to the bottom, and then you're going to use scissors to snip the edge off. You might have to work with it a little bit to get the tip to come through. So like that. And the way you fill your bag, again, you turn the edges down like this, open it up like that. I'm using icing that's coming from a bucket. Your icing is all in a bag, so yours is going to be a little bit easier. For yours, you're just going to take your bag, snip the tip to make an opening, and squeeze it right into here. So that's going to be a really easy way to get your bags full. But mine's going to go like this. Once you have your frosting in there, it's going to be stuck right in the middle, and you're going to want to push it all the way down into the tip, into the bottom. So this motion, you're going to be doing this a lot. There's always air bubbles, so I always give it a little test right there. Make sure it comes out okay. Okay, so for assembling the cake, what I like to do is look at both of my layers and see which one looks like it might be a little bit bigger. And you want to put the biggest one on first. So to me, it looks like this one might be a little bigger. So you pick this up. Remember, we put a parchment down underneath it. Just make sure you peel the parchment off. And then set it down just like that. Now, one thing that you can do is when you look at it, a lot of times they bake a little bit unevenly. So if I was doing this for a wedding cake or a cake that I really wanted to have precision to, I would take a bread knife, a serrated bread knife, and I would trim down any bulk. I would take it off the turntable too, because that's a little flimsy. This is kind of a dicey thing. You don't necessarily need to do this, but I did want to show you the step here. So you would give it a little haircut and flatten it out. And then you would have a little extra scrap right there for later. But that's what you would do if you had like a big dome going on. You would just give yourself a nice flat surface to work with. So the next step is filling. So you're going to take some of your frosting. Yours is going to be in a bag, so you're going to just pipe it on there. But mine is in a bowl. So I just glop it on like that. And then you take your spatula and you're just going to push it out to the sides to get it evenly distributed. And when you work with your turntable, what I suggest is there is a little lip right here where your cake board sticks out. Go ahead and take one hand, put your thumb right on there, and hold on to the turntable so that your cake doesn't slide off while you're working. So all you're doing is you're pushing it to the edges. It does kind of slide a little bit. And the trick here is you want to make sure that you have a good amount of frosting between your spatula and the cake. That's what's going to keep crumbs from getting in the way. So you see the motion that I'm using here is just kind of like a push and pull out to the sides. just like that. So a good layer of frosting right in there. Then you take your top layer, and again you want to pull your parchment right off. See, now that's nice and flat. So you want to work with this up. So what I try to do is look for the best way that it will fit on there to make a flat surface. So it looks like this edge is a little higher. So I'm going to try to put this edge that's a little lower right on top of that so that I can get a more flat surface, flat burger surface. And you can press down a little bit. So now you've assembled it. So the next step is getting the frosting on the cake. So we're going to go back to our pastry bag here. And we're pushing all that icing down to the bottom. And we load it up. Pushing it down, you can see the air bubbles in there. Just give it a little test there. Try to get some of those air bubbles out. So with this tip, what we're going to do is this is how we're going to get the icing onto the cake. This is a great tip right here. This is going to make it a little bit easier for us. So you start at the bottom and apply pressure. See, there's an air bubble right there. Keep going, right around the edge. And you can see sometimes, you can see a little bit of the cake through. You just keep going. You go right over it again. Because this step, all we're doing is getting the icing on the cake. And you want to get a lot on. You can always take it off, but you want a lot on. So I'm going to reload the bag here. Messy. This is a messy process. So come back to where we left off, and again, just apply pressure evenly, get it all the way out. And the same thing when we get to the top. You can see how the turntable is really helpful. Any spots you miss, you can just go right back over them. And sometimes for the center, you just want to get it out of your bag. So now that you've got it all on there, to smooth it out, you're going to take your spatula and you just want to work the sides of the cake to smooth it out. And this is quite the process. I did want to mention here that buttercream icing a cake is kind of, it's a little bit of a challenge. When I first started as a cake decorator, I spent probably my first 2 weeks doing this step 8 hours a day for probably 2 weeks to just get it down pat. So for today, the goal is to just get the icing on the cake. Getting it nice and smooth takes some practice. So, but I did want you guys to see the steps involved and the tools involved. So I'm just really lightly kind of trying to fill in all the gaps. And this is how you get a nice straight edge, is you use your spatula and you run it along the bottom of the cake. And you can see I'm pulling some off. So you start with a lot and then you kind of pare it down. When you get to the center, it's a push and pull, and you always want to make sure, I might have already said this, but it's worth repeating, you want a lot of icing on there. You want a good layer of icing between the spatula and the cake. That's how you avoid getting crumbs in the mix. So that's why we made a double batch of frosting. You need a lot. So then you just kind of keep working the edges. And ideally you want a smooth cake. That way it gives you a nice canvas for decorating, but it can be kind of a challenge to get it as smooth as you want. So I will show you guys how to work with it a little bit. If it's a little bit challenging to get it as smooth as you want, you can do something like this or like this. These are frosting techniques that kind of work with the texture, so you don't have to spend as much time getting it super smooth. you just go with it and you work with the texture. When you get to the top, what you want to do here is pull it towards yourself. And that's what smooths off the top. And you just keep working around the turntable. If there's edges around the side where you can see cake showing through, you can add more. So the nice thing about buttercream is that we were talking about texture. This is the great thing about the texture. It sticks right to the spatula, and you can just reapply it as needed. So it's not perfectly smooth, but you guys are kind of seeing the technique. To get perfectly smooth edges, one of the best tricks I know is to run your spatula under hot water. Because the spatula is metal, and metal conducts heat. Running it under hot water will warm it up a little bit, and then you've heard the phrase hot knife through butter. You get the spatula kind of warm, and then you can glide it over the edges, and you can smooth out a lot of the air bubbles and really get a nice smooth coating to it. So if you're having trouble, try warming up your spatula, and that can help. So if you want to do something like this with those edges, all that is you take your spatula like this, and a little bit on there. You take your spatula, and you start at the bottom, and you imprint your spatula, and you kind of drag it along and let it make an imprint on the cake. And that's kind of what gives you this effect right here. And that's kind of a nice little detail. You can be done just right there. You can do that, smooth off your top, put some fresh flowers on it, and it's a done cake right there. If you have color, if you made up some colored frosting to work with, you can start playing with that once you've got all your frosting on your cake. So I'll show you a couple things here. I always like to put a border on mine. So this one we don't have a tip in. It's just frosting that's been put inside of a pastry bag. Again, you squeeze it down to the bottom. I give it a twist so that nothing kind of comes back up the back of it and squirts out at you. But you can just do little dots. You just apply pressure. And the motion with your hand is like squeeze and release, squeeze and release. And that's how you would get that little border done. So that's one option you can do. You can do flowers. Little pansies are 4 or 3 circles. I think I did 4 last period, but I think pansies are only 3. You just do 3 little circles. And then you can do a little dot in the center. It's pansy. Just really simple like that. You can write. This pastry bags like this are really easy to write with. So last period they wrote 2016 because that was their graduating year, and that's kind of fun to put on there. Or happy birthday. Everyone wants happy birthday written on their cake. If you want to write with the cake or with the icing, it does take 2 hands. You're doing this motion with this hand to squeeze, and you need 2 fingers from this hand to kind of guide the bag. So this is how you would do that. The nice thing about working with a bag like this, it's almost like using a pencil. Anything you can draw, you can put on the cake. So that's kind of fun right there. And so your bags are, I think all your icing bags are, they're all at your stations. Oh, perfect. I was going to say, so your bags are, the majority of your icing is in a big bag like this. If you want to put it in a pastry bag, you can just squeeze it right in. That's the best way to do that. Your little bags, you did colored icing and they're in a little bag like this. You can use this as a pastry bag as well, where you would push all of the icing out to the edge. That's what I did here. All of the icing gets pushed out to one corner and mixed into the thing. You have basically a pastry bag to work with. So, any questions? It's a lot of information. Your leftover icing, yeah, decorate your cake with it. If you have any leftover, you can share with your neighbors if you want. You can eat it. I'm so good. I did want to mention as well, for pastry tips, these tips right here need to be reused next period. So at the end of class today, make sure you wash these out and bring these back.
Good dish to her today. I did get in it. It's still recording.
I know, but like you wave.
Do you want me to stop this? Do you want me to stop?
Oh, is it still going?
Yeah.
I don't know how to. Just like that, I guess.